from next to where the Staten Island ferry leaves from, downtown in Manhattan. So if you're on the left, you look up ahead, you're going to see the empty ferry terminal where the Staten Island ferry left, and the white ferry. There's one on each side for Governor's Island. Before the empty terminal, you'll see a rectangular tan building with a blue sign. That's the United States Coast Guard sign, if you've got good eyes. They moved off Governor's and they opened up this building here. And between that Coast Guard building and the empty ferry terminal, for just a minute, you're going to see a small church on the left. It is a red brick church with a white steeple and a gold cross on top of it. It's only a few stories tall, so it might seem like a very small thing for me to point out on a tour of very big things, but that is exactly why I like to point it out. That church was built in the year 1790, and when it was built, it was just about the biggest thing on Manhattan Island. There was nothing over 4 or 5 stories tall, nothing taller than a church steeple in 1790 here, which may seem remarkable today, but more remarkable is that remained true for the better part of 90 years until we began the construction on the towers for the world-famous Brooklyn Bridge. The Brooklyn Bridge is up ahead of us, and as we sail into the East River, we're going to sail right underneath that bridge. I called it world famous, and that's true. The people from all over the world come here and they've heard of the Brooklyn Bridge, but it has been here so long that we have allowed ourselves to forget what made the bridge so famous to begin with. The Brooklyn Bridge opened up in 1883, 3 years before the Statue of Liberty even. At that time, it was simply bigger, longer, taller than anything anyone had ever seen or could have even conceived of. If you can try to imagine it, on the right in Brooklyn Heights, this was becoming the first commuter suburb of New York as Robert Fulton was docking a steam-powered ferry here, and that was a new invention. On the Manhattan shore, you wouldn't have seen any of the buildings. There's a helicopter landing right now today. There would have been no buildings visible because they would have been blocked from your view by tall sailing ships. There's one such ship left on Manhattan Island. It's up ahead. You might see the 3 masts of it at the South Street Seaport. Ships like that line this shore. And in the 19th century, the sailors on those ships would have referred to their tall mast as the skyscraper. That word was originally nautical slang, and New Yorkers only began to use it to describe buildings when the buildings began to be taller than the sailing ships. That didn't start to happen until after the Brooklyn Bridge. Directly related, because the Brooklyn Bridge is a huge leap forward in engineering. It is the first ever use of intertwined steel cables, the same cables that make all suspension bridges possible today, the same cables that make elevators possible. Elevators make skyscraper buildings a lot more practical. And so today it'll sort of seem that the Brooklyn Bridge fits into the size and scale of New York. We are going to sail under other bridges of the same size. But the truth is that New York City grew up to match the size and scale of the bridge over the course of 100 years. As a matter of fact, when we look up at the bridge and you see it has those cables create a nice spider webbing design, but that's because there's 2 sets of steel cables. The original ones are the slanted diagonal direction. The vertical cables were added a few years later after the invention of the automobile, because the Brooklyn Bridge predates the existence of cars and was built with horse and buggy in mind, which today is lucky, because the Brooklyn Bridge, you can walk across it. It is maybe the best free thing to do in New York. And when you do, you are walking on that original wooden pathway that was built for horse and buggy. You are above the car traffic, elevated above it. Beautiful city views, river views, but more importantly, the first-hand experience and view of one of the most remarkable and beautiful structures in the city, the world-famous Brooklyn Bridge. The view from the park that surrounds it is also excellent, as well as from the River Cafe, which you'll see is this restaurant on a barge underneath it, black and white, very pricey but elegant restaurant. And then in the park on the other side, you'll see people all out in the sunshine today. You'll see a carousel encased in glass. Jane's Carousel opened up here in 2010. Behind it, all of these old warehouse and factory looking buildings, they have almost all been converted to luxury residential. Loft style apartments, hardwood floors, tall ceilings, wide open spaces. And this neighborhood followed the path of Soho and Tribeca before it. Once industrial, today trendy residential, and it has an abbreviated name itself. This is Dumbo Brooklyn. DUMBO stands for Down Under the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. And this is the Manhattan Bridge coming up above us now. And this is what's going on in Brooklyn today. You know, the neighborhoods, the communities, they want to keep the older industrial buildings. They fight to keep those buildings so that they're not developed over. They are proud of being from an industrial, or at least a rough and tumble historied place like Brooklyn. But still money comes in, especially to the waterfront. Things gentrify and change. You'll see one building here is a brick building. It's an old warehouse looking building, and they've replaced just the river facing side. They keep the old industrial building, but they add the giant windows so that you have the city river views as well. The old and the new coexisting all over Brooklyn today. Where you see the smokestack up ahead, there's some big construction happening here on the right. There was an electrical power plant. We still need electricity, but they are converting it for green power. So there's another example, old and new.